Today on the Home Winemaking channel, we're out in the backyard vineyard getting rained on, and I'm going to answer a question that is surprisingly difficult to find an answer to on the internet, and that is how to tie your grapevines to a trellis. If you want to follow this little test vineyard project, or if you're just into winemaking in general, make sure to click subscribe below, or swing by my website, smartwinemaking.com, or patreon.com/makewine for even more content. When I first started this little vineyard, I found there just was not a lot of information available out there on the web, especially for the really simple stuff, like what kind of wire to use, or in this case, how to attach a vine to that wire. So early on, I was using things like these little Velcro one-wrap ties, which are common for tomatoes and things in your garden. But what I found with solutions like those is, at the rate that these grapevines can grow, you can end up with some girdling because they don't stretch, and they won't even break if the vine tries to outgrow that tie. The same is going to be true for things like zip ties, wire ties, twine, anything that really has no stretch to it. You're going to have a little bit of a problem with potential girdling, and they're just not that fast to apply. So what I found to be probably the industry norm is this. So this is flexible vinyl vine tying or plant tying tape. It's got a little bit of stretch to it. You can buy this stuff for really cheap, and you can hand tie, but again, that's going to be sort of a problem in a vineyard where you could easily have hundreds of feet they need to tie, and in a lot of cases you might even have thousands of feet or even miles that you have to tie. So you really want to make that as kind of quick as possible. So let's talk about what we can do to speed that up. So the best way to apply your vinyl stretchy tape is going to be this, which is a tapener. This is a Max HT-R2 Tapener. I'll put a link to that in the description, and these things are super awesome. I will do a little demonstration here on some spots where I'm looking for a little bit more ties to kind of show how this thing works. First, we're going to squeeze it to grab the tape, and then I'll just kind of pull the vine about where I want it. And in this vine stage, everything is really delicate, so we're going to be extra careful not to pop any of these freshly burst buds here. And we'll just put it across, squeeze it, and it puts a staple. And ideally, you probably want about a pinky or so of spare room on these. If you look at how it creates a staple, it kind of puts it in such a way that if this thing were to really expand and try to pull it, it should pop it out. We'll go ahead and we'll tie a few more spots here. That last cane you saw was cane pruned. In this case, I've left some little baby spurs. The spacing's a little far on these, but I think we'll be all right. And the farther you push this out, the looser that it is. If I were to basically put it really tight to the wire when I closed it, it'll tie this really tight. Here we'll go extra slow to try to see how this thing works. It's grabbing the tape with the little pincher, push it, and now it comes down and staples. Inside the casing here, we've got our spool of vinyl tape. So this stuff just kind of rests in here. It's pretty easy to load. You just kind of flick this thing down, feed it through and up through these little kind of metal guides. And in here, see if we can see this on the camera good, we've got a bunch of these little tiny little staples. So up in here we've got a little toothed blade, and the reason you can buy cheaper versions than this is about $100 tapener, but if you're gonna have a vineyard for, you know, most of your lifetime, I like the Max tapener just because you can always buy spare parts and stuff for it. You can buy new cutters. The tape's pretty standard, the staples are pretty standard, and all these little things you should be able to replace over time if you ever really need to. I'm just gonna kind of run through and sort of snug this up. Ideally, you would be doing most of this when the vine is dormant because it's not quite as delicate as when you've got this new green growth here. But I'm just kind of going through some places where I've pulled off some of those old Velcro one wrap tie things and replacing them with this so that we don't end up with any girdling if these things grow like crazy in the next year. As the shoots on these vines continue to grow upward, I've got guide wires here that are in pairs, so I can kind of feed them through the catch wires, and I don't necessarily need to tape them to those wires. I can if they're getting a little unwieldy, but the other thing that I'll use are these little clips here. So these are just little wire clips for this high tensile wire. I'm not even really sure what these are called, but I'll put a link for those too. These ones are orange, which work pretty good, but after a season or two, they seem to kind of break down. I've got some purple ones that are a little bit more UV resistant, but I haven't really tested them enough to know for sure if there's really much benefit there or not. So there you have it. There's your little vineyard update that a lot of you guys have been asking for, and now you guys have something else to spend your money on in your little vineyard. Thanks for watching.